Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to my channel. As you guys can tell from the title of today's video, I wanted to sit down and go over all of the books that I read for Contemporary-A-Thon, because in my wrap-ups at the end of the month, I haven't been reading a whole lot, so I have a lot of time to dedicate to every single book that I was reading. However, I read a few books for Contemporary-A-Thon, and I feel like the amount of books that I'm reading in the month of February might be a little too much to sit down and do like a full in-depth review on every single one of these in my wrap-up. As well as I feel like it is kind of special in a way for me because I don't often read contemporary. It's not my favorite genre, it's not my favorite type of book to read, it's not, it's not something that I really crave, but I did have a lot of fun this year with Contemporary-A-Thon, or this round, and I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about the books that I read. I'm not going to go over the prompts or anything. I will list those up above in the eye for you guys if you want to check out the TBR that I did. I did not get around to reading every single book that I wanted to, but I did read some books that I feel like are really going to stick with me, and that is primarily what I want to focus on in this review itself. The first book that I read that I ended up really loving was On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I ended up giving this 5 stars. I feel like this book was very different from The Hate U Give in a way, which kind of makes sense. I've been hearing a lot of reviews from people who feel like Angie's writing style kind of changed in this book, and I feel like that's normal because I feel like Angie's really good at writing from characters' perspectives. So in the first book, Star obviously is a different kind of character than Bree is. Bree has a much different life. She lives a much different life. She has different wants and needs and what she wants to do with her life, and I feel like that really came through in this book, and I think that's kind of where the disconnect comes with Angie's writing style as opposed to The Hate U Give, and then obviously for On the Come Up. On the Come Up, if you're not familiar, follows our main character Bree. She wants to become a famous rapper. She wants to essentially get out of where she lives and do something for her family. Her family really struggles following the death of her dad. Her dad is actually murdered, and he is also a famous rapper in their community, but she doesn't do it to appease him. She does it because it's something that she really cares about. But I feel like this book hit on a bunch of different points that I feel like needed to be brought up, primarily how Black or brown students are treated in school. I feel like this really focused on how they're not really set up to succeed. There's already like a bottom line that people think that they are able to achieve, and they don't really build them up in that way. Now, when it comes to Own Voices books, obviously you guys know I do read these primarily based on enjoyment, and I really, really enjoyed this. Not only did I think the ideas behind this were really important, Bree does struggle with wanting to go to school and traditionally like appease her mom and go to college, and then also pursuing her own dreams, and I really liked that as an overall story as well. So there wasn't really anything about this book that I didn't like. Now, even looking at it critically, I still really liked the writing style. I really liked the overall theme. I really liked the character development. I thought all of it was done really, really well, even down to the love interest in the story. I think that it was just very interesting. I feel like it was fast-paced. I wasn't confused as I was reading it, and I truly enjoyed it. So if you want more information on really what it's like to be an African-American teenager or even student at all in the United States, I think this is a pretty good representation of how that truly is. Like, even talking to people who have experienced this kind of thing, like, it's really heartbreaking to hear about, but it is unfortunately something that does happen. And I feel like this book, while fiction, I feel like Angie's really good at bringing fiction to light because these things do truly happen in our world. The next book I'm going to talk about is Summer Bird Blue by Kimi Dawn Bowman. I really like this book. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. This follows our main character, Rumi. She's actually in an accident with her mom and her sister passes away. And this is really hard for Rumi because she really loves her sister and has all these plans with making music with her and going to college with her. She is her younger sister. Rumi is the older sister. And when she dies, she's kind of left to figure out what she wants to do, what her life looks like, how she's going to handle things, kind of what direction she wants to go. And in her mom's grief, she actually sends her to stay with her aunt in Hawaii for the summer to just try to get her own life together. And I don't want to go into spoilers as to why she sends her away, but it kind of makes more sense later. What I really want to focus on for this review is how realistic grief is. As somebody who has lost an older sister in a car accident, it was really heartbreaking to kind of read that. And I didn't include that in my review because my sister and I weren't the closest, so I didn't feel Rumi's pain on that level, but I definitely experienced some of that. Rumi is a very unlikable character. She's very rude to her aunt. She's very rude to the other kids who try to kind of get to know her, to try to help her in a way through her grief. And I didn't identify with her, and that's why I ended up giving it 4 stars instead of 5. While I felt like the grief was very realistic, I had some trouble relating to and enjoying parts of the story because her grief is so realistic that it was actually kind of hard to stomach. I think grief goes one of 2 ways. I mean, I'm sure there's a plethora, but I feel like traditionally it's either people start holding themselves off and kind of retreating, or they lash out in anger. And this is definitely a book where she does a mix of both, but primarily she is incredibly angry. And once again, Akemi does a really good job of painting the setting for you. So imagining, you know, kind of what Hawaii is like and what the music sounds like. And as Rumi is experiencing things, you're also experiencing them with her. And I really, really liked that. Another thing that I think is very, very important for this book is there is a sexual rep. And I feel like we don't often get that. So Rumi kind of sort of gets a crush on a boy that she meets, and then starts to realize once he kisses her that she doesn't really like that. She's not really into that. She can appreciate the form and figure and physique of somebody, but she doesn't necessarily want to do all the mushy-gushy stuff of like kissing or cuddling or having sex and things like that. She's just not attracted to them in that way. And I think this is very, very important. I've been looking for a resource like this for when people ask me any kind of ace rep that I know of, and this is the first book I've read where I can really think of that. And I think it was a great, great resource, and I think Akemi handled it very well. I think she did a good job of not really villainizing Rumi in a way, because I feel like unfortunately that's kind of the way that people would like to go, because I feel like people don't really understand the ace spectrum itself. And I feel like another thing that I really liked about this was the way that the other characters in her life handled that. Her sister is incredibly supportive. She is very much so like, you don't need to figure it out. This is just who you are. You don't need to feel bad about that. Not knowing what you want and not wanting to date doesn't make you a bad person. And then later on, obviously she does meet a boy, and even he understands. And I think that that is normal and wonderful and should be commonplace in our world, and unfortunately it isn't. But it was really great to see it represented here like that. I think anybody who's looking for a book with good ace rep, I think that you would really, really like this. And once again, Akemi is just such a great writer, and I can really feel her wisdom when she speaks about things in the books that she writes. So this was a 4-star read for me, and probably honestly, even though it was a 4-star read, my favorite book that I read throughout the entire Contemporary-A-Thon. Then the next book I read is Everything, Everything by Nicola Yoon. I'll put a picture up here on the screen for you guys. This I actually listened to on audiobook. There were a few things that I really liked about this book and a few things that I really, really hated about this book. The first thing that I really liked about it was the overall arching story. So our main character is kind of confined to her own home. She's not able to leave. She is not able to go outside. She has to be decontaminated. Like everything has to be decontaminated, including like her mom when she comes home and her nurse Rosa. And she meets a boy, as naturally, and they kind of start falling in love, and she starts really wondering about whether or not this is like the life that she wants to live, if she does want to go out and experience things, even despite the repercussions. And a little love story starts to build, and I really, really liked that. I thought it was very interesting, and I feel like at that base level, I thought it was very good. Another thing that I really liked was our main character as a whole. I thought she was funny. I thought she was sassy. I mean, I struggled with some of her decisions later on in the book, but I feel like at the beginning, reading about her, I kind of related to her. She was funny. She likes to read. She, ran like a Tumblr blog review. I really liked that. And I think that Nicola really knew that's kind of the audience that she was speaking to. And the other thing that I really liked was her relationship with Rosa. I really liked Rosa as her nurse. I think everybody could kind of use a Rosa in their life. She's very encouraging, but also very stern in a way that, she reminds her main character, you need to look out for yourself. You need to pay attention to your wants and your needs while also being realistic to how your life really is. And that includes the love interest of the story. I actually really liked the little love story. I thought it was pretty cute. I do like books that have a little bit of like I-aming, which, if you guys don't know what that is, it's instant messaging. I don't know, I keep thinking of like AOL back in the day, which makes me feel incredibly old. But it also reminds me of like Facebook Messenger, or they were sending emails back and forth, and I really like those kinds of books. So I think the love interest and the love story was really cute as well. I do obviously like her little boyfriend in the story. I think that it was just done really cutely. But there were a few glaring things that I didn't like about this book. First one being the plot twist of the story. I would skip a couple minutes ahead if you guys don't want any spoilers for the rest of this book, because to talk about the things that I didn't like, I feel like I really do need to kind of give spoilers for the book. So I would just go ahead and skip until I'm holding up a different book, so that way you guys know you're not getting any spoilers. But the things that I did not like about this book, the obvious plot twist is the fact that her mom is just so afraid of losing her that in her own grief, when her father and her brother die, she kind of just like holds her daughter her off. And I think it's not really addressed, but it's abuse. Like, she's literally holding this girl hostage, and yes, she is 18, and yes, time has passed, and there's not really, I don't know the statute of limitations on this thing, but her mom should have gotten in serious trouble, not just gone to therapy. It blew my mind. And another thing is, I don't feel like Skid was represented very well in this. From the reviews that I have read, there are varying degrees of Skid, and I feel like Nicola could have done a little bit more research on getting it right, because if you're going to base your entire story around something like this, I feel like you really need to think about like what it's actually like talk to people, read a book, research. Google is a wonderful thing, and I feel like she kind of skimmed over that. And there's a brief point in the book where, our main character is free, essentially. She's able to do what she wants to do. And yes, she has a compromised immune system, because if you're not exposed to certain things, yes, you will have a compromised immune system. And it's been 18 years that she's been holed up in her house. But I feel like there was an air of, oh, it was all a lie. You're normal. You can go out. You can go do these things. You can experience things. You're able-bodied now. And it really was dismissive of, I feel like, people who actually do suffer from something like this. And I feel like it was very insensitive to a point as well. And even with, another thing that I didn't like was the love interest. Ollie's like, okay, well, you want to go to Hawaii, and you have these pills, and we're good to go, and it'll be great. And me reading that, I was like, you really believe her? You really believe that she's been stuck in this house for so long, and you don't think that there's anything up with the fact that she just wants to go to Hawaii with you? I would be traumatized. I'd want to talk to somebody's parents. I would want, I'd want to figure things out. And it really just blows my mind. And I don't know, I like the book, but there's also this point where she just decides that she wants to go and do it anyway. And she's essentially killing herself in her own mind, because she knows that this could kill her. Chances are it will kill her, and she does it anyway. So trigger warnings for suicide here too, I think, just to be like, okay, well, I'm done. I want to live my life before I die. I don't want to live like this for forever. She's essentially committing suicide. And I feel like that's not touched on enough in this book. And I don't know, it was just really hard to kind of read about somebody who's just throwing their life away. And yes, I understand that she wants to experience things, but she's just going about it in the wrong way. And I feel like this book could have maybe taken a couple of revisions, a little bit more research. I feel like the storyline, the base plot line was pretty good, but I ended up giving it 2 stars because there were just things about it that I did not like glaring things. And I will list my full review down below for every single one of these books, but this one was my least favorite of everything that I read for Contemporary-A-Thon. Now, the last book I have to talk about, I'm going to end on a good note here, is Autobiography. I actually genuinely loved this book. I think that I ended up giving it 4 stars. I'm going to go over the things that I like about it first. I really like the overall storyline. Our main character, Tanner, is just like a normal high school boy. Sorry, I always keep wanting to think that they're in college in this book, but he decides that he wants to write. He's going to join a seminar with his best friend, Autumn, in this small Utah town. Now, the thing about the small Utah town is, obviously, it's Utah. If you guys are not familiar, Latter-day Saints are a bit more on the stricter side. I wouldn't say they're horrible by any means. I don't think anyone in any religion is necessarily horrible, but they are pretty notorious for not being the most accepting of sexuality and that, that kind of stuff. And our main character, Tanner, is actually bisexual. So he does join the seminar with his best friend, and the goal is to write a book in a 4-month period. And he starts kind of working on his book, and no one in his life knows that he's bi except for his parents, who, by the way, are the most accepting and cool parents ever, and I need them in my life. I actually already kind of have them now that I think about it, but I feel like the reason why I really loved this story is Tanner meets a boy named Sebastian. Sebastian is the Mormon golden boy, as I've said before, of the town that they live in. He is actually an author who wrote a book the year previous in the seminar that Tanner is a part of. And Tanner falls in love at first glance. And I feel like that was really realistic. You see somebody and you're like, oh, you're nice looking. I kind of want to kiss you. I feel like that was really realistic. And it's the first time Tanner's truly felt something for somebody like that. He does have a little bit of a weird relationship with his best friend, Autumn. They've tried to kind of have a relationship in the past, hasn't really worked. So to see Tanner experience first love, I thought was really cute, and I really enjoyed that. And I think the overall story is really interesting. Tanner and Sebastian start kind of having this under the table kind of subtle relationship, and Tanner's trying to figure out how Sebastian really feels. And I think that just watching Sebastian kind of grow and deal with the repercussions with his family and having a friend like Tanner and just his normal everyday struggle of being of the LDS community, I think that that was really important. And I feel like this book does a really good job of not villainizing anyone of the Christian faith either. I feel like it was done, if you look at the back of the book, actually they do a ton of research. There's books that they actually read to research Latter-day Saints, and I really liked that. I think that it was very important to have, you can really tell that they did their research. So overall, I thought the story was very cute. I thought the love interest was really done really well. I love the relationships. I love the setting. I love a lot of this book. The only thing that kept me from giving it a 5-star review would have to be Autumn, his best friend Autumn. I'm really sorry, but I did not like her. I don't like characters like Autumn. She is obviously interested in Tanner, but Tanner has made it clear that, you know, I'm not really interested like that, and they've kind of moved past it. And Autumn is still very kind of controlling and protective of him in that way, but in a kind of semi-obsessive way where she really wants him to be with her, but he's made it pretty clear that he doesn't want that kind of relationship, but she still, in subtle, minute ways, does things like that. And there's one point in this book where I don't really want to go into because of spoilers, but something happens and she pretty much admits to being shady. And now they're both not really innocent on what happens, but I just don't like her character. I feel like she's very stubborn, she's very self-centered, she's very melodramatic. She didn't really add anything to the story other than conflict for me, and I feel like there was already so much conflict going on that she wasn't really needed in that way. So that is why I ended up giving this 4 stars. This is my second favorite read of the entire readathon. I thought that it was wonderful. Overall, I really loved all of these though, but I have to say Summerbird Blue was my favorite because I have just been anticipating it for so long, and it did not let me down, and the surprise ace rep that I didn't know was in it was fantastic. So yeah, that is everything that I read for Contemporary-A-Thon. I will leave down below my full written reviews if you guys would like them, as well as Goodreads links as well. I did review all of these on my actual blog, and then I do obviously have my reviews on Goodreads, so I will leave all that down below. But yeah, let me know your favorite read from Contemporary-A-Thon if you guys did follow along, or let me know if you've read any of these, which one of these you liked, or what you thought of some of these. But I hope you guys are having a good week, and I will see you guys in Wednesday's video.